Well, hello and welcome to the first Social and Emotional Learning Global Leadership Series Roundtable of 2021. My name is Dominic Register and I'm a Program Director at Salzburg Global Seminar and also a member of the Executive Committee of Karanga, the Global Alliance for Social Emotional Learning and Life Skills. Karanga, Salzburg Global Seminar and Knowledgehook have been working together since April of last year to organize these monthly SEL Global Leadership Series Roundtables. Karanga is if you could bring up the next slide, Harris, that'd be great. So Karanga is the Global Alliance for Social Emotional Learning and Life Skills. Karanga grew out of work that Salzburg Global had been organizing for a number of years, and Karanga has been operating for about a year and a half and supports social and emotional learning advocacy around the world. The next organization in the consortium is Salzburg Global Seminar, and we're a strategic convening organization based in Salzburg in Austria. We were established in 1947, just after the Second World War, and our core mission, as you can see on the slide, is to challenge current and future leaders to shape a better world. I lead the education programs that Salzburg Global organizes, and over the last few years, these have had a very strong focus on social and emotional learning. And the third organization in our consortium is Knowledgehook, which is a digital maths company from Canada. Knowledgehook are committed to providing thought leadership in maths achievement, future skills, and social and emotional learning. And they offer a number of different webinars each month in the Signature Leadership Series. And we'll talk at the end about how you can access past and future content that they have there. As I said, we've got a really great audience with us today. So we have 8 Canadian provinces, 20 US states and 27 countries, including representatives from Mauritius and Saint Martin, countries that are joining for the first time. So welcome to everybody, and thank you very much for being with us today. Today's roundtable is going to focus on the forthcoming OECD study on social and emotional skills. And we will have the chance to hear from 2 of the cities that have participated in the study, and they'll talk a bit about why they joined and what they wanted to get out of it. Our host today is Jennifer Adams, who's the editor-in-chief of the Signature Leadership Series at Knowledgehook, and also a colleague of mine at Karanga on the executive committee. And Jennifer will be joined by Marjo Kyllönen, who's the head of Education Development Services in Helsinki in Finland, and Michele Giroux, who's the executive officer, of the Ottawa-Carleton School Board in Canada. These are the 4 questions that they're going to be primarily focusing on today. If, as they're talking, you have questions, then please feel free to add them in the chat or the Q&A function on Zoom below, and we will try and address all of the questions as the conversation progresses. Equally, if when they're talking, it makes you think of resources or articles or podcasts or content that you've seen that you found really interesting and illuminating on the topic, then please feel free to share links in the chat and engage with one another. So it now gives me great pleasure to hand over to Jennifer, who's going to give an overview of the genesis of the OECD study and then move into the conversation with Michele and Marjo. So Jennifer, over to you.
Thanks so much, Dominic, and real pleasure to be with you here and to share with the participants news about the upcoming, well, the study that's already taken place, but of course results that will be coming in and shared publicly sometime before June 2021. So sometime in the first half of this year, which is really exciting. And before we get into a conversation with Marjo and Michele, we'll talk a little bit, share some of the slides that are available on the OECD website that really give an overview of where this study came from. And my former involvement with the OECD was as the country rep, one of 2 country reps for Canada. And I finished with that 2 years ago and handed off the baton to Michele, who will be able to talk about what Canada has done and what Ottawa has done since then. A little bit of information on the study, and we started working on this 6 or 7 years ago, and it was really to look at broadening the focus on to include student social and emotional skills, to really look at improving outcomes. Research is very clear that student outcomes are based on not only academic outcomes, but well-being outcomes as well as health outcomes. And all of those things work together and are important. and really to promote the development of these skills among students. So what are the things that we need to know to be able to really be effective in creating the conditions and best practices in those areas? So, looking at it, they take a look at, the study actually takes a look at the assessment of social and emotional skills. It identifies particular skills, and we'll talk about that, as well as how to assess them. And they look at basically 3 different factors that they believe have an impact on the development of those skills. So factors at home, factors at school, and factors in the peer environment. And I think, any of us that are in education, any of us that are parents, any of us that work in communities know that all 3 of these environments do indeed have an impact on the development of these skills. They also take a look at the background characteristics. So there was a survey to see what were the backgrounds characteristics, both in the school system as well as with the students. And finally, it looks at life outcomes. And what I like about this is that really, this is what we're all in this together for, right? We're trying to improve the life outcomes for all of our students. And this survey and this study is a way of looking to see if that has an impact on it. So many of you are probably wondering, well, what exactly were the social and emotional skills that were assessed? And I remember when we were doing, we had some researchers, international researchers that were coming in and talking to us about, what are the skills that should be looked at. And, at the time, and this was years ago already, they talked about, there were 130 different elements of social emotional skills, and that really the importance was to look at the big buckets of those skills. And based on work that's known as the Big 5 domains, work that came out of California a number of years ago, those big buckets are task performance, emotional regulation, collaboration, open-mindedness, and engaging with others. And you can see the little subsets within those different areas. In addition to that, it became obvious that outside of the social emotional skills, there were some skills that were very much related to that. And so those are the additional indices of achievement, motivation, and self-efficacy. So again, I'm sure many of you would like to have an opportunity to look at this more. And if you go to the OECD website, you'll be able to see these and take your time with them. One of the things that was really exciting about this cycle is the OECD decided to approach this as kind of major cities within countries around the world. And so it began with taking a look at were there cities that were interested in taking a closer look at this. And what I was really excited being part of the group that was involved in working towards making this a reality was that we were so excited to see that there was quite good global representation, considering, of course, that there were only 10 cities and countries. So with the exception of Africa and Australia and New Zealand, and of course, we would love to have those involved at the next round, we do have fairly good representation. So you see Canada and the US, Ottawa and Houston, 2 cities in Colombia that stepped forward and did the administration, Portugal and Finland and Turkey, and then Moscow and moving over to China and South Korea. So we had really good representation across, and again, hoping to improve on that for the next cycle. One of the things that is exciting, and I was really excited to hear this, is that the OECD is planning on a second cycle, and looking again at item preparation, field testing, main studies, and moving through to analysis and reporting. And of course, the farther we go and the more cycles that we have, we will have an opportunity to learn more. And Marjo and Michele will be talking about their experiences taking part, and hopefully encouraging some of you to approach your countries to say, hey, this is a great thing to take part in. Finally, just quickly, what is interesting about this is that the OECD realized that they have certainly shifted their work to be much more global in their, much more beyond achievement skills in their analyses and the work that they do. And this study fits in with a number of different initiatives and projects and surveys that span a lifetime. And I think that that's really interesting. The research on social emotional skills is very clear that it's developmental. It develops over time, starting with very young children. And you'll see that the OECD, of course, the International Early Learning Study, the IELS, does get at some of those social emotional skills. Then we have this particular study that targeted a cohort of 10-year-olds. Then we move on to PISA, which of course, most of you are well aware of that academic assessment that looks at reading, mathematics, and science, as well as global competencies and creativity and collaborative problem solving. And then this study builds on that because of course it has a cohort from both the 10-year-olds as well as the 15-year-olds. And finally, it fits in really nicely with the survey of adult skills, or PIAC. That looks at literacy and numeracy, it looks at problem solving and metacognition strategies, and these big 5 skills. So it's a really nice opportunity to build on that broader sense of achievement, of assessing achievement and well-being with our populations as they go from being very young children right into older adulthood. So a great piece of work. And with that, I'm going to open it up for a conversation with Marjo and Michele. So Harris is going to open it up so that you can see the panelists here, and Michele and Marjo, a huge welcome. And just before I turn to a quick question for you, really encourage the people online. We've purposely set this up so that this is a fireside chat type of approach. We want you to be putting forward your questions and your comments. And Dominic is going to help us guide through that process. So he will jump in and bring those questions or comments forward. Michele and Marjo, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jennifer.
It is great to have you here. And I think I'll start off with, it was a big decision. And I know looking back, it was a big decision whether, the jurisdiction wants to get involved with a study, especially a study that is a brand new study, one that hasn't been done at this international level with the OECD before, and one that moves from academic skills assessment over into the non-cognitive or the social emotional, leading to well-being. So over to either one of you to start that. What made your jurisdiction get involved in this?
Marjo, do you want to go ahead?
May I? Okay. Well, yes, greetings from Finland and Helsinki. And actually we are already night, so it's totally black outside. Not that black because we got a lot of snow, so it's really a winter time here, minus 20 Celsius degrees currently. So greetings from Helsinki. To the question, thank you, Jennifer. It's really a pleasure to be here and elaborate this, what we have. Why did we join this? Why our jurisdiction join in this, and what we have learned so far. So for us, it's kind of very strongly rooted in the Finnish education system and the city of Helsinki. So we have always considered social and emotional skills, non-cognitive skills, an essential and important part of the learning and growing process of the learner. So when we were presented this idea of being part of this first time global research about social and emotional skills, so it really resonated the understanding that we already had, what is important for the children to grow, to become this kind of full members of society and have a real good sense of self-esteem and well-being, and to become a healthy person. So social and emotional skills plays a crucial role there. So when we heard about this this research. So it didn't take a lot of time for us to make our decisions. Yes, we want to be among these cities, and yes, we also want to be involved and have kind of an impact or effect. How do these skills are defined? Because it's also very important that they are not traits, as we have been discussing about this several times with Jennifer, that they are not traits, but they are things that can be learned at school. And that was kind of the key reason we wanted to be in. But now I hand this over to Michele, because I could speak about this hours, to be honest.
That's great. Michele, from Canada's perspective.
Thanks very much, Mario. And hello and greetings from Ottawa, where it's not -20 today, Mario. It's sitting around 0, so it's pretty good. So this is, like Mario, something that really connects to the foundational purposes of education. In the province of Ontario, school systems are responsible for both student achievement and well-being. And social and emotional skills are really at the intersection of learning and well-being. And so in our school district, we had been thinking a lot about how to bring this to light. And we developed what we called exit outcomes, 5 characteristics and 5 skills that we want for our graduates. And we started out talking about them in the context of graduates. And then we quickly realized that we needed to talk about the development of these skills from kindergarten. If we want kids to achieve these things by the time they graduate, we start this learning in kindergarten. And what the study offered was an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, because although we understand the importance of the characteristics and skills, we know relatively little about how to measure their development. And so we recognized the potential of the study to help us in that journey. And we're a school district that is keen on research and keen on being able to measure capacity. So it just seemed to be a natural fit.
Mario and Michele, great intro comments. And Mario, you know, when we saw that Helsinki and Finland was coming forward to be part of this study, obviously that was great. And, you know, you have a reputation based on PISA results and all sorts of other indicators that you've got a progressive education system that's helping a lot of students fulfill their potential. And so to have Finland there was a great piece. I really thought it was interesting, and I remember that point in the development of the study where there was a bit of an aha moment when we moved from that concept of these are traits as opposed to these are skills that can be developed. And I think that was a really important piece and place in time in that study when all of us realized, wow, these are skills that we can help children develop. And then who are the people and where are the places where they do develop them? And it gets back at that overview slide of they can be developed in school, they can be developed in the home, and they can be developed in the community. And Michele, you know, your point within the school district, we started off with that conversation. These are graduate characteristics and skills, but if they're going to have developed these skills, we can't be waiting till the last year, we can't be waiting till high school. We really have to start thinking about 4 and 5-year-olds and what does that developmental process look like.
It's great, and I'd just like to add what you said, Michele, that really this is something that we need more deep understanding of these skills. So we have recognized that these are very essential skills that we have to develop and support their growth of these skills. But then on the other hand, there is not sufficiently and research-based understanding. How do we develop these skills? What are the things that kind of how to discuss and how to support the children's growth in this area? And that's why this research is so important, and it's so important to get this kind of research-based knowledge about these skills and how to develop them. What are the things that are affecting and what are the hindrances that we can see. And we all know that the home background, the background of the children's home, it has a very big impact on their growth. But on the other hand, we understand that at schools and at kindergartens, we can really make the difference. We can help those children that are not supported at their home to grow also, develop also in these skills. And that's why it's so crucial. It's also a tool to prevent polarization and drop out from the society.
Absolutely, Marjo. And that whole idea that we can, if we know how the family and the parental home helps to develop these skills, we can help the parents have the support so that they can be working on that skill development at home as well.
That's right. And that's an important part of the survey methodology, right? Because the survey methodology did that assessment not just on students at 2 different age groups, but also required their teachers to complete some documentation, the principal to talk a little bit about the background of the school community, for parents to complete some information. And so that triangulation of data is really important in understanding the sort of whole child, whole community context of these skill developments.
It's amazing that, and that's obviously one of the challenges with administering a survey like this, is that, you know, the more people that it goes out to, the more challenging it is to make sure that those participation rates are high enough to be able to have legitimate information. But the fact of reaching out to parents and letting them know that we're wanting to have input from them is a real strong signal by the jurisdiction as well that they count, and that we will share the information once we have it about things that we have learned through this study. I'm going to shift a little bit over to the idea of what did you actually learn during the participation, because of course we don't have the results yet. But there was lots of learning that took place just being part of that initial process of development of the study and going out to item analysis and field testing and to the final administration. What did you and your teams, your teachers and your principals and your superintendents, your communities, what did you learn throughout that process?
I'm smiling because I personally learned a lot, just how huge kind of investment this is, and at the same time, as a personal learning journey. So I learned a lot about these social emotional skills, and I got a broader understanding what are the skills, how they are connected, what could be kind of the factors to support and help our children to develop themselves in this area. So that was a learning journey for me in many perspectives. But then what we learned as a city, because well, the intake for the sample specifically for the 15 years old, it meant that all our 15 years old were in the sample, and also the majority of almost all from the 10-year cohort was also involved. So we got a good interaction because we needed to assure our teachers and principals that this is, although social and emotional skills are considered very crucial skills, but then to be part of the research, and it really required a lot of work from our principals, from our teachers, from the school coordinators. So we had a lot of interaction where we were discussing that why this is so important, and why do we need to have a look at these skills, specifically nowadays. And it was interesting to see how the interaction went, and how the teachers, what we faced was kind of amazing, that even the teachers union was with us and said, this is a very important research, we have to take part in it. And we had a very good conversation during the research circle about the importance of these skills, and the teachers were motivated to take part in this, and so were their principals, because as we were discussing the importance, as we were thinking that of all this research and what will come out of it. So it really motivated our teachers who participated. And I have no doubt that if there's a second circle, so if we are taking part in it, so the people already know that this is something that is worth of kind of investing time and resources when the time comes.
2 comments before I pass it over to Michele. You know, the one thing is that teachers are doing incredible work with students, and they've been doing that for such a long time. And when we look at some of the international assessments and some of the broad, large-scale assessments, they very much focus on, you know, literacy and numeracy and academic skills. And I always thought that this was very honoring of the true breadth of the work that our teachers do with their students, because they help them develop skills that are so much beyond those academic skills. So it's not an either or, but I think it's really honoring to say, yes, you do play a really important role here, and this is what it looks like at those stages. The other comment is, and Michele and I, when we were both in the school district, we really had to think about, you know, in order to have people participate in a study like this, because it does take energy, it takes time to be doing the assessments with this on the students and et cetera, reaching out to the families. You really have to start talking about why is this so important, and connecting people so that they will want to take that time to be involved in the study. So it was a great opportunity for clarity, for lots of communication, for really having that teaching and learning conversation about what is important as far as skill development. So lots of similarities there, Marjo. Michele, over to you.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think, you know, I talked at the outset about school districts being responsible for student achievement and well-being. And I have always thought that, you know, when school districts were responsible for achievement, learning happened at school, teachers are professionals, they do the teaching, that's supported by, you know, routines and some homework, etc., by parents. But when well-being comes into the equation, it's entirely different, right? Because well-being doesn't happen between 9 and 3 p.m. And so that partnership between school and home becomes that much more important. And I really think that's one of the things that makes this study so appealing. Coming back to the learning, Jennifer, I think 3 big learning things from our perspective. So the first would be the opportunity to participate at the international table and to just really see how common the interest was internationally. Although the participants were very different and there are lots of anomalies in terms of cycles and learning and age and where kids are at, that shared interest in getting at this work really reaffirmed that, 1, we were on the right path, and 2, that you know, kids around the world need the same kinds of skills. So that was one thing. From a project management perspective, like Marjo said, the complexity of this project is significant, compounded in our rollout because the Ottawa study actually involves 4 school districts. We are the largest school district in Ottawa, but we have 3 coterminous districts, and they partnered with us as well. And we were very grateful for their partnership. But that, of course, added complexity to the administration. And I guess the big learning in terms of a project of this kind of rigor is the need to resource it properly. And one of the most important things we did was have layer on a project coordinator who could manage, you know, skilled in research and could manage some of that background work. So that was really important. And finally, just on the development of social and emotional skills and its connection to our other work. Although we don't have the results yet, as we have started to think about how to prepare for the results, right from the outset of our survey participation, we've thought about how do we engage those different groups, parents, teachers, and students in these conversations. And it's amazing how many intersections there are. And so it intersects with our learning, obviously. It intersects with the folks, the work that our mental health teams are doing. It intersects with the work that our equity teams are doing. It intersects. And so it really is foundational to a lot of the work that we have ahead.
That's so interesting. And I'm looking at some of the comments that are coming in the chat, and some of the questions are around the impact of the pandemic. So give us a little sense of when the administration actually finished, and boy, we were just in the nick of time there. And then beyond that, you know, is this based on what all of us have been living through for the last 9 months, and obviously it's continuing on for at least the foreseeable future while we wait for vaccines to be able to come to all of our countries. Is this even more important now? I guess that's my question.
Yes, definitely. Actually, that's something that we have been discussing, and myself personally during these past 9 months. So in a way, I've been really, really pleased that we decided to take part to this research, as it already has shown this extraordinary times has already shown us the importance of social and emotional skills and interaction, and to become a holistic personality. So these skills are more and more important than ever, I would say, and that's why I'm also kind of looking and waiting for the results, so that we can start the discussion and start to reflect with our teachers and reflect to these experiences and the researches we have made during this pandemic time, that what is the well-being of our children, and what is the social well-being of our children, and emotional well-being, and specifically during those times that they are remote learning. So we can't have a physical connection to them. So we need to have more deeper understanding, research-based understanding about this phenomena, this entity of social and emotional skills. And that's why no one could predict this thing, but I think OECD made a very wise decision to have a research on these skills, because that's what we are needing globally. We need this type of information and understanding more than ever before.
Absolutely, Michele.
We completed the administration in November of 2019, and then there was some post-administration data submission. So literally, we finished this just prior to the start of the pandemic. And so obviously the pandemic has had an impact on the survey results themselves. Were delayed in terms of the release of those survey results. But the interesting thing is the pandemic has really highlighted for people, I think, the awareness and understanding of the importance of well-being and mental health for students. And the other thing that I think is really key is the important role that schools play in student health and well-being and in family well-being. And that, I think, will really make us, or really enhance our ability to use the data when we get it back. Because, you know, we talked a little bit about how internationally we all see the same kinds of issues with kids. And we know from the surveying we've been doing of families throughout the pandemic that those social interactions and those relationships with teachers and that family connection to the school is critical. So we think there'll be a much stronger acceptance of what comes out of the study.
There's so many different, sorry, Marjo, you're going to jump in.
I was just, exactly, Michele, that's something that has shown us globally that the importance of education, it's not only academics. Actually, it's the kind of the main goal or main role of the school is to bring up the future generation of our societies. And there, of course, academics have their place, but academics are also things that you can more easily to learn online and from the web. But then the social and interaction, the social emotional skills, they are so crucial, and the social and emotional well-being of our children. So I think this time has really kind of clarified the importance of education systems in that perspective.
There are so many ways we could take this, but one of the comments I was thinking of, when I asked the question on pandemic, that's not the only thing that's the only challenges that have been happening over the last 9 months. And when we think of the human relationships issues that we're having, and we're in Canada and we look south of the border of what's happening, and we know that it's not unique to the US. We have lots of racial issues in our country as well, and all of us, the school system has such a huge role to play into how do we have children and grow up into be adults that can have positive relationships with people that have different backgrounds and that have different perspectives. How do we and then on the other hand, how do we improve equity of outcomes so that all of our students are equipped with the both academic and social emotional skills to go out there and to make this world a better place. So a comment on that part, because it's not just about, there's a huge equity piece, and have you seen as you and your systems have put a focus on social emotional skills, how is that impacting your work on creating equitable and inclusive education systems?
Really great question, Jennifer. And, we don't have these study results yet, so we can't look at that, but I can talk a little bit about how our work in this study has informed some of our other work. So in the 2019-2020 school year, we undertook 2 large research projects. The OECD study was one of them, but the other one was the collection of identity-based data. And so we did a district-wide collection of identity-based data, so demographic questions, but we also included questions around school climate and sense of belonging. And so we are just working, we have 75,000 students in our district. So we're just working through that analysis now. And we will be looking at the sense of belonging data and breaking that down based on the demographic data that we collected later in the spring this year. And we're very excited about that because that allows us to go a little bit deeper. And when we structured those sense of belonging questions, we tried to structure them around those exit outcomes, the characteristics and skills, so that we could make some connections. And although they're not a direct connection from a research perspective, they'll certainly help to inform our work and what the right path is. There were also some questions in the chat around the demographics of schools that participated in the survey. And just to say that, and I'm sure Mario's the same, we've got quite a broad range of schools in our district. We are very, very large geographically with quite a dispersed population. And the study required a cross-section of the population. So definitely we have different kinds of schools that participated, or schools with different kinds of student populations. And that collection of some of the background characteristics will help to inform that. So that does bring a bit of an equity lens to the study.
Michele, just before I forget and pass it over to Marjo, one of the things on the Knowledgehook Signature Leadership Series, we've got a kind of what we're reading area to share this kind of information with different articles and blogs and books, etc. And to be able to once your report or analysis of the 2 reports as far as what you were doing on the identity-based survey and kind of looking at how those pieces intersect, that would be something that we could put up on if your district is comfortable with sharing it. So that others have an opportunity to do that. You can imagine 2 huge studies like that, tricky to be having in the district at the same time. So I'm sure a lot of jurisdictions would enjoy doing that. Just for the audience's sake, Ottawa Public District is extremely diverse. I think we have about 21 or 22% of our students that speak something other than English and French in their homes. And they're coming from, we're obviously the nation's capital, and the families are coming, we serve families that are coming from around the world. So that would be, I think, interesting for others to be able to see. Michele, thanks. Marjo.
Yes, exactly what you said, Michele. So, well, in our case, when it's the 15 years cohort, so as I said, we had to almost, well, in practice all the learners, because there's a different structure in for our 15 years old. So we have also private players there. So as providing school services, educational services. So there was a wide range of pupils from different homes and social and economical backgrounds, and also the linguistic background and cultural background. And when it comes to the 10 years cohort, so the sample was arranged in the way that we had schools representing different types of backgrounds, pupils' background, and in Helsinki, we also have in our elementary education, so approximately a bit more than 20% of our learners are non-native Finnish speakers, as we, what is our way of, our statistics, how do we describe it? And that the equity question is crucial, and to our understanding, to be these social emotional skills, they really play a crucial role here also, and also to come when we're thinking of how are you included in your own environment, in your own society, in the classroom society, the surrounded society. So it's quite a crucial question. What type of interaction do you have in between the pupils and parents, and how, what is your attitude? How is everyone valued as they are? And these are kind of crucial questions also when we are thinking of this research. We have also several other researches that we are keen to reflect and to see how they resonate the results of these social and emotional skills. And we have a long history of having a survey where there is one part we ask the pupils. So one part is about their well-being and belongingness to the society. Do they feel that they are included? Are they part of the society? Do they school or classroom society? Do they have friends? If they are bullied, and what is their social well-being and physical well-being? So it will be interesting to kind of compare these research, as we have this longitude research. We do it every second year, this kind of survey that we ask our certain year groups about their well-being and social and emotional connectedness to the society. And of course, during this pandemic time, so we also made a smaller surveys asking about the well-being of our students, and not in that deep that we did in this social emotional skill research, but similar kind of things, a bit more lighter way, and we ask our pupils. We did the first survey in the beginning, end of May, and then we had another one now just ended last year, in the end of last year, and it's interesting what type of picture does this different research form, and what we can learn from this. But I think, well, I'm really excited to see the results of this OECD study, as it was so profound, and we can also reflect it to the other cities to see how does this phenomena look like in different cities.
Both of you have really demonstrated how one study will never answer all the questions, and nor should it. And it's really our ability to put together and ask questions from a variety of different perspectives and at a variety of different levels, right? This is an international study. It has the resources to go very, very deeply. Then we have things that are happening with jurisdictions across the jurisdictions. We have things that are happening at the school level, and we have our teachers and our educational staff that are right in the classrooms working with kids directly and checking on their well-being and their development of these skills, working with the parents closely. So You know, that's the one thing that I think you've done a really good job of showing, is that this is going to be one piece of information that you're going to use to add to all the other things that you know about how our students are doing out there. Dominic, I'm going to pass it over to you. I see you jumped in there, and I can only imagine there's a ton of great questions coming out here in the chat, and I hope we've addressed some of them, but a couple of others that you'd like to ask Marjo and Michele.
There are some absolutely fantastic questions, and as the conversation has evolved, you have been addressing some of them, but there are a couple that I would love to bring to your attention that are kind of clustered around potential opposition or concern to the study. So a really interesting question about the need to depoliticize some of the debate around social emotional learning, and whether there was, opposition to the study from any of your constituents. And then a sort of related question about concerns or measures that you've been able to put in place to prevent the data being misused. So the kind of risk that OECD are very attuned to of sort of comparative conclusions being drawn, where you end up saying that children in Helsinki are more empathetic than children in Ottawa, for example. And how do you avoid that kind of comparison, or the risk of comparison?
Okay, well, oppositions, of course, there were in general when it comes to this theme of that research and whether it's important or not, there was to be honest, there was not opposition on that people didn't question it whether it's important or not, and I assume that the reason why there was not that kind of question is, as what I said in the very beginning, that social emotional skills have always, or have always, well, you can say always, been a crucial part of our learning concept and even curriculum. So we see them as part of the learning and growing process. So I assume that was the reason that there was no opposition whether about the research itself. Of course, there were questions that we discussed and some challenges that we had to face and resolve about, for example, using the time of the teachers and specifically when it came to this older cohort. So we all know that the timetable is fully packed with all the academics learning, so where to get time for this research and things like that, but not this kind of opposition that we don't want to be part of this, and why are we as society taking part in this research? Because everyone kind of we have the history behind us or supporting this kind of thinking. So that was the first question. Then there was another one that I already forgot, but maybe Michele, you will also continue here, and then I will come back.
Sure. In terms of opposition to the study, like Marjo, we didn't have challenges with opposition to the concept. There was big support from the outset on that. What I think we experienced more of was the fact this was the OECD's first study. So we were developing the study throughout the process. So it's years of work. And so where we ran into I don't know if we'd say opposition or challenges, was in the sustained interest and commitment to the work. So, we got buy-in at the outset, but, even at the senior staff table, making sure that people understood why we would need to commit to this or what the resource demand would be over time. Our funding partners, there were different times where, there was more looking for results, and we were years from actual survey administration. Our study partners, even throughout the study, in our case, we were unique in that there were 4 boards participating and we were the lead board. So we had much more direct connection with the OECD than our other study partners did. And we're a larger board, so we're better resourced. So we had to find some ways to support our study partners to make sure that they had the capacity to continue. And the other thing that I think was really important if you're going to embark on this kind of study is external influences and how they can affect you. And so, you know, we had a few very big ones. We had, obviously, I mentioned we were doing another major research study. So the pressures of two very large and competing research projects, but we had labor disruption during the survey administration. And so that affected teacher participation rates for some of the stages. And we had a change in government. And so that was a whole relearning with the provincial government about why were we involved in this study, and you know, why should they continue to participate and continue to offset some of our costs in participating. So those were some of our experiences with opposition.
Was there a kind of, sorry, Jen.
Sorry, no, yeah, back to you, Dominic, sorry.
It was an earlier question that came out about how you communicated about the study to parents and other stakeholders, and sort of, which I think relates to Myra's question, which was the, specifically referencing a talk that Andy Hargreaves gave last week, talking about how some SEL approaches have become more just about calming children down rather than about well-being and learning. And Andy was calling in that talk for an approach which is depoliticized. And I think it'd be really interested to hear from both of you about how you communicated the purpose of the study, and you know, when you talk about what social and emotional learning is and also what it isn't, because there is a risk sometimes that it becomes a catch-all for a wide variety of different reform agenda.
Oh, what Andy Hargreaves said, so it's quite an interesting approach. Well, we didn't have that type of discussion. Well, how do we communicate it? It was that first, of course, what is crucial, that our leaders understand why we are in this, because it's about leading the resources and the conditions. So first, the very first thing what we started was as our administration leadership and the executive head, we were all behind it. It was easy because we all saw the importance of this study. But then we communicated, we had enough time because it was this was also, as Jennifer said, it was a long-term process. So we discussed with our principals, and the immediate feedback was that I could, many principals came to me and say, Marjo, this is utmost important. As it was either Michele or Jennifer who said that we are used to measure the academic achievements, but this was kind of celebration, the work that our teachers really do at school. They are really much concentrating on the social and emotional well-being of our children. So the principals came to me and they said that this is awesome that we are involved in this, because this is the most important thing that we are concentrating, and specifically the principals from those schools where the social and economical background of the kids were not that high, so they considered it very important. So it was easy to communicate, as everyone, all the principals was for it. And then the next step was that, of course, we communicated with the teachers, and it was mainly through the principals, but then we have this selected representatives from each and every school. And then we had another channel that we are using when we are communicating with the parents. And then we had some kind of small publications about this importance of that. But of course, in our environment, it's never easy to get the parents to answer, so that the rate on parents questionnaires, how many answers did we get, it was quite low. But the teachers and the principals and the pupils rate was really high, and we were very pleased in that perspective, that people were motivated to take part in, and they understood the importance of this. And I think in general, this is the key, whatever we are doing as leaders. So the first thing is that people have to understand why we are doing it. If they don't, so they are not committed, they are not motivated to invest their time and resources and energy to do it.
Michele, maybe you can continue on. Dominic, one of your original questions was, how do we ensure that the OECD, you know, when we don't end up into that kind of that ranking, shaming kind of situation. So anything you can share as far as what you will do as a district that will help make sure that those go out and the information is used in the right way.
Absolutely. I'll start with the first question, which is the sort of how do we plan on the communications? And so we start with building the why, right? Explaining why this work is so important and connecting that. And it was easy for our district to build on our exit outcomes, the messaging we'd already been doing, but we also had to make sure that our messaging connected with the other 4 districts, right? That it wasn't uniquely about the work that we were doing. And so to do that, we coordinated the communications. We had the 4 districts work together. We had a communications team, and then we managed centrally those communications after discussion so that we could provide those other districts with the information they needed to communicate. We are very fortunate at the OCDSB to have a very talented research team, and our research leads were really passionate about this project. And so that really helped us out. Also differentiated between the research communication, so messaging to participants about the study and the research ethics and methodology, and differentiating that from promotional and awareness kinds of communications. And I think where the rollout, and I think this comes up in the chat, will be most important is when we have those study results. And Jennifer, that comes back to your question about how do we not compare? And we were particularly concerned about that in Ottawa, where we have 4 boards participating, and we didn't want not only Ottawa compared internationally, but Ottawa compared within. And so really making sure we're focused on the sort of higher level concepts and the connections. So when we get those international results, after we receive the international results, we'll also get a local report. And we won't break that data down by different school boards. It will be for the whole city. So we're looking to engage other partners. We're talking with our partners at Public Health. We're talking about some of our social service partners. We've got a few universities in town, and then there's some educational organizations. I see Annie Kidder has been very active in the chat and has lots going on. Annie, we might talk to you when we ever get to some kind of rollout about participating, but looking to make those connections to the bigger picture ideas rather than getting into the individual data comparisons.
Yeah. This is such a great way to. Sorry, Marjo, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, as you remember, Jennifer, so this is a question that we also discussed within the informal advisory board of this research when we met with OECD partners. And this is a crucial question that we are not making a ranking list of who is the best in social emotional skills, but we get a broader understanding of the phenomena and what are the factors that have an impact and affects this kind of the growth of the social and emotional skills. And of course, one thing to prevent this kind of unhealthy conversation is that how do our OECD researchers, how do they write the report? And we as participating cities, we have the opportunity to have a look on these reports and give feedback. And I think that's also kind of a very crucial moment, that when we get this draft, so we give honor feedback if there's something that is leading us to the wrong track, because we don't want to have this kind of ranking list, but to have a better understanding, as I said, and also how there will be no report on the individual schools or pupils, so you can't compare in very deeply. It's a holistic picture of one city and also the background of the city and background information. So I have a high confidence that the OECD partners and who are writing the report, they have also this kind of high ethics, that this is not this will be used in a proper way and to promote these skills instead of ranking and listing.
It's such a great way to Sorry, Dominic. Yeah, it's such a great way to end the conversation because it's kind of our hopeful piece, right? This is a brand new study in a brand new domain. And the individual countries that have been participating, you have an opportunity to create what that language will look like coming out of the local levels. And I think that, you know, the potential for that to really be talking about why do we do large scale assessment, whether it's academic or non-academic, we do it to help teaching and learning and to improve the outcomes of kids. And I think we have a great opportunity. I know that you guys have been thinking lots about that, and we really look forward to seeing kind of that second generation, those second generation documents. What have you done with the results once you get them, and what do those conversations look like? And I know our participants on the call today and those that will tune in on the on-demand version will really like to hear some follow-up on that. So Dominic, over to you to wrap things up.
Yeah, well, first of all, many thanks to you, Jennifer and Michelle and Marjo, for a really fantastic discussion, which has done an enormous amount to whet multiple appetites for the study when it's released in a couple of months' time. As I said at the beginning, we've been organizing these monthly SEL Global Leadership Roundtables since April of last year, and you can access all of the recordings of previous roundtables, including one where Andrea Schleicher from OECD was our guest. I think that was back in June last year, and as well as all of the other roundtable discussions in the Knowledgehook Signature Leadership Series. So all of those are available through the website that is on the center of the slide there. The next roundtable coming up is one as part of the maths understanding called Getting at Equity in Math, which is on January the 27th, featuring amongst other people, Professor Joe Bowler, who's been a guest on a number of recent roundtables for Knowledgehook as well. So thank you ever so much to the three speakers and to all of you for joining us for this. And we wish you all a very safe and happy rest of January and 2021.
Thanks to all.
Thank you. Kiitos.